Point of contact is very important. It's the first chance that a desk adjuster has to set those expectations with the insured. You want to make sure that you reach out to them, let them know who you are, let you know what company you're calling from, so they're aware, give them your contact information, and then basically just go through how this is going to work.
Back again here for Season 2 of the New Adjuster Podcast, Episode 3. My name is Murphy Buggs in the Property Training Department. With me, as always, is
David James, also with the Property Training Department.
And we are super excited to have you here with us today. Again, as we dive into Episode 3, we've already had 2 up to this point. In the first episode, we did a recap of Hurricane Ian from this last year from the perspective of a desk and a field adjuster on the property side. And then in Episode 2, we dove into more of the RDL section of things with Deshawn Taylor. She went over licensing, certifications, and really how you get into the business of adjusting, and really what are your first steps to get your foot in the door. If you missed those episodes, go back and give it a watch on our official YouTube page or give us a listen on Apple and Spotify. But thank you so much for joining us today. All right, let's jump right into Episode 3, and this one is called Diving Deeper into Desk Adjusting Beyond the Basics. So in Season 1, we touched on this topic just a little bit. We went over kind of a high-level overview of desk adjusting. So this season, we want to dive a little bit more deeper into it, obviously, as we got some great feedback from that episode, and I think it's something and a topic that we can expand on even further. So joining us today is 2 very special guests. Firstly is
Kelsey Arrington, Property Claims Manager.
Welcome.
Thanks.
And also joining us today is
Mary Berry, Property Claims Manager.
Awesome. So we
Welcome
are
as
super
well.
excited to have them here with us today. Again, 2 very special guests, been here a long time, done a lot of great things with CNC, so thank you. First question that we really want to go into today, so about desk adjusting, just to kind of recap from our discussion in Season 1, give us kind of a high-level overview, Mary, of desk adjusting. What is it? What goes into desk adjusting just from 30,000 feet?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that desk adjusting is one of the most important parts of the claim process. Your desk adjuster handles the claim in its entirety from start to finish. They are the point of contact for every entity on the claim. For anyone that is a part of the claim, that's the person that they're going to contact, whether it's the insured, the agent, the public adjuster, the attorney, they're going to contact the desk adjuster. Also, they're the liaison between vendors and our field adjuster, and just talking between everybody, just letting them know what's going on and making sure that everybody knows what's happening throughout the claim process. And they're also just the claims professional. They are the ones that are going to explain to the policyholder what their coverage is, what it looks like, what they can expect throughout the entire process of the claim. So being a desk adjuster is very important, and they're going to make sure that the claim is handled throughout the whole process. They're going to handle it. They're going to be the person that you speak with. They're going to be the person that you talk to and just handle it from the beginning to end. So, payments, anything, any questions that anybody has on any level, that's going to be your main person that you go to handle and take care of you throughout that claim process.
Right.
Absolutely. I was going to add to that, issuing payments. That's a huge thing in the claim. The desk adjuster is the one issuing every payment to every vendor, every payment to the insured. They're verifying all the payments are correct, and that's a big part of the claim, issuing payments. So,
Right. So in a way, really, as the desk adjuster, you're sort of the lifeline for that policyholder. You are the main point of contact.
Cradle to grave, the main contact.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it.
So you mentioned you gave both of you gave a great overview. Technology, where does it come into play as far as that goes? Like, say we're looking at an estimate that they write, or trying to make sure our measurements are right. So we've got Eagle View, we've got Hover. Is that a piece of the desk adjusting? Do they need to know that part of it, how to interpret it, how to read it, where it comes from, how to import it?
Absolutely. I believe that a desk adjuster needs to know the importance of how to read an Eagle View, how to work Exactament, how to just know those tools in order to make sure that what they're getting in from the field is factual. That they can read it, they can understand it, and then they can find any errors that may be there in order to make sure it's fixed before it goes out to that insured.
Yeah, absolutely, because they're the one explaining it to the insured. They're the one going through the estimate, telling the insureds what's covered. So, they have to understand it to explain to a contractor or to the insured, this is what we're covering, this is what's included on these line items and Xactimate, and why.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, looking at from the desk side, getting into it, it's really more than just making a phone call and being you're a customer service representative, but you need to be more involved rather than just answering yes or no and forwarding them to the next department. And so forth.
Absolutely. Just kind of going off of what you said, the contractor, sometimes contractors give us wrong measurements.
Mm-hmm.
So if that adjuster is aware of what the Eagle View says and what those measurements are, they're going to be able to, counter or go back and forth with that contractor and let them know that, hey, this isn't right. This is what our Eagle View or our, measurements state.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you getting yours from? Send me what you have,
Right. Right. We always want to come to a resolution. For
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to desk adjusting too, a lot of people think about tools, actual hardware, right, that a field adjuster uses. But for us, it's more, we have tools, but they're technology tools. It's more software. So speak to some of the softwares that a desk adjuster uses every day throughout their claims process.
So we use our claims management system, but we also use Xactanalysis. We use that for absolutely everything in the life of a claim. So anything from the field adjuster, it's going to be an Xactanalysis. We have the ability to access all of their documents, all of their estimates, photographs. We also use, exact contents, so we can review, insureds can submit their contents estimates, and they can submit those things, itemized photos of it. They provide those to us so that we can review them in-house.
Right.
And Xactanalysis works, in conjunction with our claim management system. So
Right.
if something doesn't come over, you're able to go in there and push it through so that we can receive it on the end within our claim management system as well. So those two go hand in hand. Most companies have their own claim management system, but Xactanalysis works across the board with a lot of different systems. So that's one of the main ones I know that at C&T we're using, and a lot of other carriers are using as well.
One of the more recent ones is claim experience. Do you have any experience in that?
That's actually where I was going with the contents conversation, was claim experience. But you send an invite to an insured, and that gives them access to the claim. They can review documents. We send mortgage verification forms through there to say, hey, can you confirm this is the correct mortgage? Because if we don't do that, every payment that's issued is going to be incorrect.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what do you mean mortgage verification form? Lots of folks don't know that, but
Yeah.
Can you speak on that more as far as why? I mean, why is that important? You kind of did, but
It's important because mortgage companies are listed on larger claim payments. They have an interest in the property, so they are listed on payments over a certain amount, and it depends, state, carrier, what that amount is. But the mortgage company will be listed as a payee on a check for property damage, so that they will have to endorse the check. So we need to make sure that it is correct, because your mortgage changes quite often, and
yeah, so the policy it's states in there that they have a vested interest in the
Absolutely.
in the claims process, so they need to be. It's our responsibility actually to make them aware of that. And I've known in the past, in my experience, like you said, the mortgage company is subject to change. So if you don't verify it, even if it is the right one, each mortgage company has their own process. Some of them may have a local branch to go to, and you just sign off on it, and they endorse it, and you go along with it. Other ones may want to do their own inspection, may want to set up a separate account to put the money in and disperse it as the repairs are done. So, I mean, that goes back to, kind of the whole overall claim experience, back to the desk adjuster, being able to explain that, give those expectations.
Yeah, so staying on topic as far as technology tools. Now, and I'm thinking about from terms of a new adjuster. So as a new adjuster, you sit down at a desk, all this is new to you. Do you have to provide that software or those tools up front? Is that provided to you by CNC or the IA firm? Do you have to have that up front? How's that work, Mary?
Well, for CNC, I know that that's something we have in-house here. So when an adjuster comes in, we do have the program where they're able to access it. Now, training and things like that, if they don't have it prior to coming in, I'm sure that's something we can assist with getting them up to speed on how to work it out, how to go through it, how to access it in order to work the claim. But here at CNC, we do have the access for them to get in and able to work it, as well as our own, our claim management system as well. They're able to come in and work those items right there at their desk.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah. We provide computers, software, all of that's already on their system. The software that's on each person's computer is determined by which department, which carrier they work for. They automatically have certain programs on there that are utilized by the specific carrier.
Yeah, so in staying on that too, I know a lot of times, again, for new adjusters, they come into a deployment like one for CNC. That's that anxiety factor right off the bat, is not knowing, do I have what I need? Do I need to bring it? Is it already going to be provided to me? So I think that eases some of that stress level
Absolutely.
right off the bat. Yeah, okay, good deal.
From a desk adjusting standpoint, communication obviously is going to be key, right? I mean, you're a customer service representative. Going into that, whenever you give me an idea of how important making that first contact, setting the expectations is what I like to say. Giving somebody, put yourself in their shoes. What would you want to know? If you're filing a claim.
Point of contact is very important. It's the first chance that a desk adjuster has to set those expectations with the insured. You want to make sure that you reach out to them, let them know who you are, let you know what company you're calling from, so they're aware, give them your contact information, and then basically just go through how this is going to work. Set them up for how the claim process works. Because if I wasn't insured and I've never filed a claim, I don't know how that's going to work.
Right.
So if I am an adjuster and I'm contacting them, I want them to know, hey, I'm your adjuster and this is how this is going to go. We're going to set up those expectations, what you're going to see throughout the claim. Your field adjuster is going to come out. They're going to call you. We're going to give you a coverage determination and estimate. I'll go through that and talk to you about that, explain that in detail with you. And then on that first contact, you want to ask them specific questions that, we need to know in order to set that claim up for success.
Absolutely. Questions like confirming that date of loss, confirming that the policy is active, seeing if there are any active leaks. Do we need to send out leak detection? That's a huge thing. We're confirming a lot of things on that first initial contact, but that first contact can also help with determining coverage down the line. So if you're setting those expectations on that first phone call, they know what to expect when you make that second phone call about the coverage determination.
Yeah. Right. So there's no surprises.
No surprises.
Right.
There shouldn't be. Because if I'm an insured and I'm filing this claim, I want to know the steps. Otherwise, I'm calling every day saying, hey, what's going on? When's this person coming out? What do I do next?
That's right.
If you set them up for success that first phone call, smooth sailing the rest of the way.
Yeah. So in the claims process, we talked about first contact. Let's fast forward a little bit. So we'll fast forward past the field adjuster's portion, because as a desk adjuster, which is on topic here, the file comes back in. Obviously, there's file reviewers that look at the estimate. They make sure that it's correct, policy, endorsements, exclusions, all that has been applied correctly. Does a desk adjuster do like a secondary review before they get into the actual coverage determination, Mary? Because I know that's the next step in the process.
Yes, absolutely. I'll make sure that all of my adjusters take the time to look at the estimate, to, look at everything that came back from the field. Even though we have a QC department here, we're human. We all make mistakes.
Sure.
So if they just take the time to go through that, they may find something that may be wrong that we need to fix. So it's very important that they take the time to go through that estimate, read those notes from the field adjuster, and just make sure that everything that the QC has made the determination for lines up with what our field adjuster has written in his notes, and also the estimate lines up with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're reviewing the estimate. That's what you're basing your coverage determination off of. You're writing your coverage letter based on that estimate. If you don't know what's in it, you don't know what to tell the insured you're paying for or not paying for that matter.
Right.
So
It's true. That's true. I mean, think about it like this. So we're in the business, right? We work in Xactimate. we know what R&R half-inch drywall means,
Right.
right? Not everybody does, right?
Right.
I mean, so you give it to me, and I'm just like, I don't even know what this means. What am I going to do? I'm going to call you and say, explain this to me. So, I mean, from an adjuster standpoint, from the side, inside, you want to be able to, you've got to be able to break it down and explain it to them. Even with contractors or folks that are doing the repairs, they may not work an Xactimate. They may do handwritten estimates. They may write out, went to Ace Hardware or Lowe's or Home Depot and bought all this. They don't know. It may be the same thing, but you've got to be able to relate that to what it is that you're
Absolutely.
addressing.
You're telling them, hey, you get a contractor's estimate. They're like, well, we have to have this much money to do that. And you say, well, if you look at this Xactimate line item, these items are included in that line item.
Right.
Some of the contractors, like you said, that don't use Xactimate and insured, they're not going to know that these three things are all covered. They're included in the price in that one line item in Xactimate. Sometimes it even comes down to you going through line by line and explaining to the insured what this is, what it means, and what we're covering.
Well, you should, like you said, because if you do all of it up front, you don't have to go back and forth. You may be out of the office
That's
on
right.
vacation, and somebody else has to pick up the file, and it wasn't explained to them, so they're having to take time to go over that. If you do everything up front, like you said, to the best of your ability, it eliminates a lot of unknowns and
Absolutely.
escalations.
For sure.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, so we talked about, coverage determination too, and when you get to that. So you're explaining to them what is covered, what's not covered, why is it not covered. Obviously, you got to have some policy, information and knowledge there to be able to back it up. So you write a letter, then you go to issue the payments, which is what everybody's waiting for. Everybody's waiting on the check, right? So how do you explain to them, hey, this is why the check is this way? A lot of times people don't know what depreciation is, and they ask, how do you explain that to them? And talk a little bit too about what is recoverable depreciation, because that's a buzzword that everybody hears when you get to the end of the claim. So Mary, you want to take that one?
Well, first of all, when you're having that conversation with the insured, I like to let them know that everything that we're discussing today is going to be in a letter, in a coverage determination letter, and it's going to be written out for you. It's going to explain everything that we're discussing, and that's going to be something that you have in hand to show you what we're paying, why we're paying, what we're not paying, why we're not paying, and just go into that. So what I also instruct some of my adjusters to do is use your coverage determination as a talking point. It literally will take you through everything you need to, because you have to list in that coverage determination when we came out, what we inspected, what we saw, what we covered, why we didn't cover it, what in the policy covers that, what doesn't cover that, and so on and so forth.
So it's like a timeline.
It's like a timeline.
It
It almost
you-
gives you a talk
It
path.
gives you a talk path in order to have a successful conversation with your insured. And then when you follow up with that in writing, it makes it a easier transition for them to understand and know what's coming about. So when you get to the part when you're explaining the estimate and you're talking about what's on that estimate, breaking it down for them, if they have questions, if they don't understand, hey, you're going to get this up front, but there's also this amount that's here for you. If you get this repaired within this amount, you have to stay, you have to break it down to them and go through each section of the estimate and explaining, okay, your roof's $10,000. That's what we're going to give you. But of that $10,000, we're going to go ahead and give you 8, and then so on and so forth. So, you just have to take the time to break it down and sometimes even put it in layman's terms, because they may not understand the terminology that we're using. So you just break it down to make sure that they understand, and ask them before you get off the phone, hey, what questions do you have? Does this make sense? When you get this estimate, give me a call. And if you have any further questions, let me know.
Right.
Most of the time, if they follow that talk path, they won't have too many problems. You'll run into your situations with your supplements and things like that.
Right.
But once they understand up front what they're getting, what we're taking care of, what we're paying, and why we're paying it, and how it's being issued through that conversation, it kind of sets the adjuster up for success, and that insured knows what to expect throughout the rest of the claim.
A couple things you've mentioned that I want to touch on. communicating that, explaining it to them. But for me, I always stuck to the policy and explained it to them.
Yes.
You you have replacement costs.
Yes.
Okay, if you do, and this is how it's addressed. It's designed to put you back in the condition you were prior to the loss.
Yes.
Right. So depreciation may apply based on the age and condition. Right, and that's how it's depreciated. It is recoverable. Right, as of right now, the condition that it's in, it's worth this much.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're entitled to recover X amount to equal the replacement, up to the replacement cost, not to exceed it. Okay, anything outside of the replacement cost, if there's upgrades, anything additional, that's really your responsibility. But I want you to understand that this is a fair market value for what it is, and this is kind of like your budget to work within. Now, if there's any supplements, by all means, we want to put you back in the condition, make you whole again. But we don't want to give you an expectation, here's $10,000 or $20,000, but my estimate's for $40,000. What's the rest of it at? And that's something that you just learn as you go.
Yeah,
working claims,
absolutely.
Because every customer is going to be different. They're going to have questions. They're going to look at it a different way. And
they're going to want to know, well, why I'm not getting all of this now. They're going to want to know that. So it's important for us to take the time to communicate that to them up front, so that when that supplement comes in and maybe they're not going to get that, or, they may not meet that full amount when they turn in their final, paperwork of everything being completed, and say, if it's lower than that, well, why didn't you said I was going to get this? Well, if you have that conversation up front, you kind of get ahead of all of that.
Set that expectation.
Yes.
We've estimated to be $10,000. The actual cash value is $6,000. It costs you $8,000. You're able to recover what it actually costs.
Exactly.
Even though we estimated $10,000, it only cost you $8,000. So
that's all you're going to get.
Right.
See, like Mary said, you want your coverage determination letter to outline everything. You want it to read how you would talk to the insured. So you're speaking to them and saying, this is what happened, this is what we're paying for. The letter itself should break down all of that. It should say, this is how much we're paying, this is depreciation, this is what you do to go about recovering depreciation. It should lay out everything step by step for the insured to look at. So there should be no second guessing. If you go and read to them basically the beginning to the end of that coverage letter, you should have no problems.
Right.
It should break it down.
It's like a timeline. Every state, every policy is different, but some allow 180 days.
Right.
Some allow 365. Some allow 2 years. So it's very crucial to let them know.
Yeah. And like in Florida, you only have so many years to file a claim after the date of loss. You only have so many years, months to file a supplement or request the claim to be reopened. And insureds don't know these kind of things.
I wouldn't know if I didn't do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, because what you were saying too about having so many months or however many years or whatever. I know with the Senate Bill 2A that just came out, that really came into play at the beginning of this year. You got 1 year to file the claim from the date of loss. Because way back when, you could wait 3 years to file a claim, and it just gets more and more messy then. In a supplement claim, it's 18 months. So yeah, there's some time frames in place to where, to your point, if that's in your coverage letter, it helps them understand, okay, these are my parameters. This is how long I've got.
This is what I've got to work with.
Yeah.
And as long as you explain everything that's in that coverage letter, there shouldn't be problems. There should not be questions. If they have questions after that, you did something wrong.
All right, so in coverage letters too, I feel like maybe folks, new adjusters are looking at this and they're furiously jotting down notes. I got to remember to order it out this way and talk about all these different A to Z points. But these typically come in template form, am I correct? I mean, it's given to you to where it's kind of just fill it in as you go, right, Mary?
Yes, absolutely. We have some coverage determination letters that are set for basically almost each policy every carrier has.
Right.
So with that, we have preset them with the coverage information already in it, the policy information already in there. So basically, all you're doing is taking the time to go in and just fill in the blanks.
Right.
Fill in the blanks. We came out there on this date, this time. We saw this. This is what was wrong. This was what was damaged. This was what was not damaged. And per your policy, you go through and you select the whatever. If we're denying anything, you select the policy information that's in the letter that goes with what we're denying.
Yeah, that kind of outlines.
It's outline.
Yeah,
yes, it outlines everything in the letter for you. It's already set up. You put in the insurance information at the beginning. You put in your information at the end. Attach all your attachments and enclosures to it, and pretty much just package it up, and send it off. But everything is right there in that letter set for that adjuster, and all they have to do is just go in and add in specifically for that claim.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've got letter libraries, so we've got several for each type of claim, the type of
good.
scenario.
Yes.
So we have some with policy language already in it for it's this type of policy, we're denying for this. Here's the letter that you need for that with the language. So
Awesome.
there's hundreds and hundreds of letters
Sure.
with certain scenarios that we have all stockpiled and ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's
not doing
perfect.
too much work, but doing just enough to make it perfect. We love a good, perfect letter.
Yes, it makes it so much easier.
It does.
Okay, new segment on this week's episode, Fact or Fiction. So, David, give us our fact or fiction question to our two great guests today.
Okay, so let's hear me out now. So when you get a temporary license, that lasts as long as you're going to work the claims.
Fiction.
What?
Mary,
It's fiction
Why?
why is that?
because an emergency license only lasts a certain amount of time, so it's going to expire.
So what should you do?
Get your license.
Should have a real license.
Get your
You
real
should
license.
Get your real license. That gives you time to get your license.
Right.
So
Gives you a little leeway,
that sets
right?
you up. You can start working the claim, but during the time you're working the claim, go ahead and just get your
Dive
license.
deep into the licensing.
Get it.
Right.
Yeah, so in the off season, you can go ahead and get your permanent license if it's available or if you can
Yes.
afford it. If not, emergency license will get you through the first however many days while you're getting your own. Okay,
Correct.
good deal.
That's right.
Good deal. All right, let's jump back into it with our questions with the amazing Kelsey and Mary Berry. So, Kelsey, I know you and Mary a lot of times do a lot of interviews, right? New adjusters are coming on, they're candidates, whether it's for a CAT deployment or for daily work. They're trying to submit resumes and get on the roster and actually get deployed to work for us. So, when you're siphoning through these people's resumes, what are some skills, qualifications, certifications that really jump out at you on the screen? What are some things that, as a new adjuster, it's good to kind of have in your tool belt to really stand out from the crowd?
I would say, being Xactimate certified, level 1, level 2, maybe level 3. If you have any kind of experience and certifications in Xactimate, that is amazing to see because you are going to be reviewing estimates. You're going to be looking at them. You should know how to write them, how to look at them. It's not required. Again, being bilingual is another one. Really looks great on a resume. Something that we're always looking for. Just having a lot of licenses as well. Not a lot per se, but having them listed in a spot where we can see them, like at the top of your resume that says, I'm licensed in these states, and being sure that your licenses are updated, that they are renewed at the time that you're submitting that application or that resume.
And that's really good to have those things. Those do jump out to me when I see them on a resume when we're looking for an experienced adjuster. Some of the skills that stand out for me is making sure that a person is organized, because this is the type of field that you have to be organized in. You can't necessarily come in and just be all over the place. It won't be successful. So with that being said, I make sure that within the first week or two, I pay attention to how a person sets up their day. I pay attention to how they, attack their assignments. I want to make sure that they're on top of what they're doing. They're keeping up with their metrics. They're keeping up with the amount of claims that they have, because you just can't come in and be all over the place. That's one of the main things that I think stands out for me for any adjuster, whether they're new or whether they're old. Because if you're a new adjuster and you're organized, you can still be successful.
Yeah, and I know one thing too, I've heard both of y'all mention it. A lot of times when somebody has a background in customer service, that
Yes.
stands out too. Because in the grand scheme of things, David says it all the time, you're a customer service rep first and foremost.
sure.
So I know a lot of times that's a really nice kind of base to have when you get into adjusting too.
Customer service, I am so impressed when you're proficient in Excel and when you're proficient in Microsoft things like that. That is impressive to me because that shows your organization skills.
Correct.
That shows that you understand these computer systems that you're
Tech
jumping
savvy,
into.
yeah.
Tech savvy, absolutely. If you have all of these things that you are proficient in, that's important because you're going to be using them here.
Yeah.
And also, if you are on our roster and you work with CNC, seeing that you come to the training classes, we put out a lot of different training classes for, people
teaches
that
those?
are, you guys do. We do a lot of training. Some are carrier specific, some are just, customer service oriented, or just teaching you how to adjust 101. Like seeing people attend those classes and make sure that they're there and they're attending lets us know that they're serious about what they're doing and they really want to come work for our company.
Right.
So that does stand out to me.
When you see their name on several things, you see their name or you see them walking into the office, you're like, hey, I've seen them down the hall. I've seen them showing up to David and Murphy's classes.
It's just a way to be prepared. What I live by are my 5 P's, and that's prior preparation prevents poor performance. Okay. And so if they are prepared by coming to the classes, calling in, making sure they update their licenses on their roster, speaking to RDL, just making sure that they stay at the front end of, our minds so that when it's time, we're going to call them, checking in and just making sure that we know that they're ready. They're on the roster. They're taking training classes. They're getting their certifications. That's going to make them stand out ahead of anybody else.
Right.
They're taking it seriously and they want to be here. That's what we want to see is they want to be here and make it an effort to do so.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying there too is required is the licensing of it.
Yes.
The additions and the pluses on top of that are Xactimate certifications and coming to trainings. It only makes you more deployable in a sense.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Yeah, and going back to the training. By the way, I'm going to have to get your what did you say was the 5 P's?
Yes.
I need to get that after class. But training with us is going into your profile and updating your licenses, your classes, and you get points, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You
so
do.
that plays into your pay. And
Yep.
that's for another conversation. But
And your deployability. Really.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right. It's showing the initiative. I think you said that earlier. It's showing the initiative that you want to do that. So going back into desk adjusting, and both of you have talked about it before, is the collaboration piece. I know you mentioned you really wear, from a desk adjuster, you wear several hats, right? And being able to communicate across the company. That's with obviously your supervisor, fellow adjusters sitting next to you. You can bounce questions off of, help them out. Field adjusters. How successful versus unsuccessful if you just come in and the biggest thing Murphy says this all the time is having an ego. And you know it all.
Not having an ego.
Not having an ego. But one or the other. How does that play as far as where do you see someone that's able to work with someone versus that is going to do it on their own? Which one's successful versus the other one?
What I look at in a situation like that is when we have team meetings and we have things that require us to come together, who's willing to come together and help the next person? Who's willing to, step up and say, hey, I see you're struggling with this, or, you're struggling with that, but not in an egotistical way, but just in a way to know that I'm helping out my teammate because we succeed together. It's just, and some people say in adjusting, yes, it's individual based. However, if the team fails, we all fail. So just being able to differentiate the type of person that is going to be able to collaborate and, work well with others, you see that in a team setting. And for me, it's all about, if I see one person is good, are better in this area, I might get this person to come together and mentor or work with them. And how do they work under pressure? How do they work with that person? That's just a way that I try for my team and for the people that, I supervise or manage. I look at everybody's strength, and I also look at their weaknesses as well. But I try to pair them together to see if they're going to, work out and if they can work well together. So, and also just being a leader and showing, hey, I'm able to work. I may be your manager. However, I'm still going to come sit with you and see what you're doing, how you're handling your claims.
Right.
So I don't think I'm so above or, more than
It doesn't go very far, does
you
it?
can teach
Right.
me something,
Right.
So it's just being able to show people how to collaborate, and being in a position such as this, you have to be the example.
Lead
So
by
set
example.
the example, and then also from there, watch how they, maneuver amongst one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like she said, if the team fails, you as an individual fail. But if your team succeeds, you also succeed. So a big thing, not only coming together and figuring out a solution to a problem, but just speaking up.
Yes.
Just having the courage to say something and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I see someone struggling with this. It's so hard nowadays, and I feel like that's something we as a department sometimes struggle with is people speaking up.
What we said on the calls
Yeah.
that we've had is ask for help.
Yeah, if you don't know, ask.
Ask.
Absolutely.
I mean, I go back to this too. Everybody had a first day, right?
Yes.
I mean, the three of us kind of all started together. David's been with us obviously the last couple of years too. But each of us in our career as an adjuster, we all started and didn't know zilch, right? We were
Correct.
day one new adjusters, and somebody mentored us. Somebody took us under their wing, showed us the ropes, and got us to where we are today. And we owe a lot of
Absolutely.
gratitude to those people, like new adjusters.
Yes.
When they start, there's nothing wrong with asking the person beside you because they know more than you do on day one, and that's okay. But they're only going to help you get to the point where now you can mentor and take the next person under your wing. You just kind of pay it forward. So
Absolutely. And not only that, but you're in, especially in a group setting, if we're having group meetings or even in the office, I promise you, if you ask the question as a desk adjuster, you ask the question, there's 3 people sitting on your same row as you. They're like, dang, I was wondering that.
Yeah.
I was too afraid to ask. Or I promise in every single scenario, if you have the question, somebody else has already or is currently dealing with the same problem.
That's right.
And the
That's
only
right.
question that's a dumb question is the one you don't ask.
Yeah.
So, and
That's
that's how
exactly
I
right.
present it to my team. Like, ask me. I don't care what it is. Ask me, because you never know. If you're sitting back here and just holding back, and you need to ask that question, you may make a mistake that could mess
be
up.
prevented, yeah.
Yes,
You're gonna
It
make
could-
mistakes.
You're gonna
Yeah.
make mistakes, but if you can ask to get the guidance that's there for you, that's provided for you, that's the best thing to do.
I also like to just ask the question or have the conversation, because my input on a situation, I'm just going to say, looking at policy language and interpreting it, for an example. I can look at it a certain way and read it, and then I can ask the person sitting next to me, hey, what do you think about this situation? They interpret it completely different. So we always have these situations, I'm just saying, sitting over in the office that, hey, here's what's going on. How do you look at it? How do you interpret this situation? And you get everyone's opinions. And I've been doing this a while, and I'm, have a department that works with me, but I learn something new from them every day coming and asking a question.
Yeah,
I
sure.
learned something that I did not know the answer to,
Right,
or I didn't think about it like they did. So
Yeah.
the collaboration and working together is huge.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask the
right,
question.
exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think to kind of cap it off too, and you mentioned it, about team meetings and stand-ups. I know as desk adjusting groups and managers you have with your supervisors and people that that work underneath you and with you, we all have our own group messages, right, where everybody can collaborate all at the same time.
Yes.
And I know you both encourage people to speak up, ask training, ask me, your supervisor, ask your neighbor. So I think that's a big piece too. Like I said, when you start, you're a little afraid to ask the question because you don't want to seem like you're the one that doesn't know. But to your point too, a lot of times other people don't know as well. And that's why that collaboration point is so huge, that you can bounce those ideas and questions off others. So
Absolutely.
Find a buddy in the office that you're that
Right.
you work with. Get that person to say, hey, what do you think about this? Even if it's not asking them a question, but getting their opinion.
Sure.
Insurance, working in insurance as a desk adjuster, there are so many ways to get to the same answer. Or, there's a problem. There's so many different ways to go about it that just having somebody to talk through a situation.
And it's just
huge.
like you say, get a partner. Kelsey's my partner. I just became a manager this year, and she has helped me, grow. And I've come and ran and asked her questions on, well, how do you do this, or what do you do when you do this, or and it's not being afraid to ask for help. If you're
Open
stepping into
yourself up.
something new, and we all, step into something new every day. Every day we wake up and we come to work, it's a new situation.
Sure.
So we just have to be open and, available to learn that, hey, you're not gonna have a perfect day. You're not gonna be perfect. There's always someone there that has the answer. So
Great.
just ask.
Absolutely.
Right. There's from a new adjuster standpoint, there's 4 things that when I first started out with a deployment that was coming near the end. I went and asked my manager. I was like, "What's it going to take for me to stay deployed?" Because you hear, well, the claims are not coming in, we're working down. Is going to be longevity, and I wrote them down and I looked at them every so often just to remind myself. But the 4 things for me they told me that was to be on time. Okay. Be coachable. I think both of you have said that. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, you're new. You're going to learn. Being able to take the feedback in a positive way. It's not about, I know more than you. It's about this, look at it from this angle, like you said. Maybe this will help. Licenses, right? The more you have, the more deployable you are. And then finally is surveys, taking care of your customers. That's going to, if you work your claims the right way, that's going to pay you back and, create longevity. So
It's going to reflect there. So absolutely.
Yep. All right, this was an awesome conversation today. Kelsey, Mary, can't tell you how much we appreciate you being here. Obviously, Kelsey, recurring guest. Mary, first time here. Love to have you back, maybe in season 3. Maybe we can tease that, right?
Right.
Have you back on the show. So again, this was amazing. Good question and answer. Good conversation. I think very helpful for new adjusters to hear this about desk adjusting. A lot of times they think adjusting field adjusters on roofs and crawl spaces, but desk is a whole nother side of the fence, right?
Whole new ball game.
Exactly. So going through that today, obviously super helpful. I'm glad we dove deeper into that after season 1. So those are kind of my closing thoughts. Again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. David, you got any closing remarks?
no, I mean, you pretty much said it all. Just want to thank both of you. You gave some great insight, advice, just a perspective from doing it for so long, and those that may have questions. So I appreciate it.
Thank y'all so
Thank
much for
you.
having us. We
Thank
have
you so
enjoyed
much.
it.
Definitely enjoying myself for my first time.
There you go. All right. Thank y'all. Back again for another Mythbuster section of the New Adjuster Podcast Season 2. So let's talk about a common misconception or a myth in desk adjusting. The myth is that you have to have a field adjuster on every claim. It has to be a 2-party claim. David, why is that a myth?
Because with the way things have evolved lately in the claim industry, you can handle claims over the phone without having someone go out and physically inspect. There's several methods, and it really depends on the carrier and their preference. But, for example, when I started, I was started in a unit that actually talked to the claim, the policyholder that filed the claim, and we asked them questions, and they told us what was going on as far as their damages, and was told, based on what they're saying, if the policy allows coverage for it, then we write an estimate for it.
Right.
And I was like,
From the desk.
from the desk, right? I was like, okay, but I mean, it makes sense, I mean, if you're saying that you have water leak, to the living room, and the policy affords coverage for that type of loss, then what are your damages? Let's go ahead and pay you, and get your claim closed so you can get your repairs done and move on.
Yeah, and I think that goes too with a lot of lower severity claims. So you can't do it on your high dollar total loss claims, but
No.
It is a common misconception that you have to have a field adjuster in order to do the desk adjusting portion of the claim.
Right. And, really, that's how, for me, starting out, I learned that way as far
Right.
as adjusting overall. And that's going, not just making a first phone call and saying you're going to have a field adjuster, and then they get through with it and you close the claim. Is actually, I worked it from start to finish.
Exactly. Thank you everyone for watching and or listening to David and I today with our two very special guests. If you missed any of our previous episodes, please go into wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Apple or Spotify, or also on our official YouTube page. You can refer back to our previous episodes as well. Now, our next episode, we will dive into essential tech for a desk and a field adjuster. So really exciting topic that we dive into next. Again, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again.